Hey guys, welcome to the Gig Economy Podcast, the B-side.
The B-side. Somebody was
guys.
saying it was a little bit too low, too loud there, huh?
Was it too low? Too loud?
Not too loud.
Oh.
The intro was too loud.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, this is the B-side. Every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. we interview a gig creator or a gig worker, and today we have, well, it's usually the creators are usually both. They're both workers and creators.
Right.
And we have Pedro, one of the top gig creators on YouTube. We cannot thank him enough for coming on. We got like 40 people in here, so it's like that's like insane for us. So.
This may be a record.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here, guys. Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
So what we do on the B side is, like I said, we interview people, and I just want to, I know your fam probably has already known a little bit about you, but for our family, we'd like to know how you got started in gig work, what market you're in, what's your primary gig, full or part-time, just kind of your beginning story in the gig world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started the gig economy about 3 years ago. I started it full-time. I did rideshare to begin.
Yeah.
I was working at a casino, full-time salary job, very busy, working 50 hours a week or whatever.
Nice.
And I used to be a rideshare passenger, so I used it often. And I had a trip I wanted to pay for and didn't want to dip into any savings or anything. I said, you know what? I think I could do some rideshare to help pay for that trip. So I would basically work my regular gig or my regular job, a W-2. And then on a couple of days out of the week, I would turn rideshare on at night when I get off, work a couple hours, and then I would take one of my days off and work a few hours. And I mean, I loved it. I like meeting people. The money was good. I was like, you know what? I'll trade a little bit of my time to pay for something in what I thought at that point was kind of a smart way, right? Pandemic happens. I got furloughed at the casino. I started doing it for a couple of months. I was furloughed, started doing it full time, and then went back to work, still did it a little bit, left that in 2021, January 2021. So for 2.5 years or so, I've been full-time / part-time in the gig economy. I do Uber, rideshare a little bit, Uber Eats, mostly DoorDash, and Instacart are the apps I run right now.
How was it going back? You were doing it for full time, and then you went back to your job after they called you back. How was that? Were you like, ooh, this kind of sucks?
I mean, I was happy to go back to work. I really was. But then, I'd be lying if it wasn't like, I kind of like making the money in the gig economy because I was able to do it when I wanted.
Yes.
The position at the casino, I kind of made my schedule because I was one of the bosses, but you really don't, because when you're working in the restaurant business, I managed the F&B department, you got to be there on weekends. You're there at night. You have to be there a lot, right? So I didn't love that part, and that's kind of why I left and said, you know what, I think I could do this full time and then work on some other things on my time and utilize the gig economy in that way. And I haven't looked back since. I have no regrets. I love working in gig economy, some days more than others, but I really enjoy it because it allows me to turn on and off an app most of the time when I want. Obviously, you got to work when it's busy, but you can still, I don't miss any family functions. I don't have to ask somebody for a day off. And that's really, really, really nice.
So you mentioned that you kind of do them all. What's your favorite one?
I love rideshare.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I like it. I like picking people up. I really, really enjoy that. Now, I don't do it as much as I used to because the food delivery is easier. It just is. Less liability, less risk, more safe. But I do enjoy the daytime rideshare in St. Louis. I mean, I really, really like it. But also with that, you're going to drive more mileage and everything. So monetarily, I do better with food delivery most of the time, as far as like a profitability standpoint. Yep. But I like the rideshare. I really, really do. Yeah. And if I had like a SUV or like a big Suburban, I would probably do that more often because money can be really good if you have a vehicle like that.
Yep.
But I do mostly food delivery and shopping right now.
I feel like I'm always the one out because to me the rideshare, which I started in 16 and did rideshare for years, that's all that was. It causes me anxiety now. Like I'm glad I downgraded from an XL to a regular car because like I get party people in there and they're just I don't know. I just Jesper loves it. He loves the drunks.
Oh my gosh.
He loves everything about it.
You have a comfort now, man. You're all good.
Yeah, comfort, whatever. Like, that barely pays anything more than the X.
Yeah.
It's like this much.
Yeah.
But no, I'll only do rideshare. No, me getting out of my car to kind of deliver people their food. I'm not doing that.
I hear you. Let me ask you a question, Jesper. So do you feel like the rideshare is more like a professional line of work? Is that why you don't like the food delivery? Like I've heard some people rideshare guys.
No,
Okay.
not at all. No, I have just as much respect for the people who deliver me my burger or whatever. Absolutely. To me, it's just what I call rideshare my therapy. And it's just hard to have a therapy session with a burger in a bag, right?
That's great.
So,
that's a good point. Yeah.
So to me, I mean, I'll drive the week. I'm the weekend warrior. I drive at night. I make sure people get home safe from the bars and that kind of stuff. And I have the conversations. That's just me. But that's because a very big part of it is the camaraderie, the fun, the games, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
Yeah.
But anyways, so talk a little bit about your show, Pedro Santiago. What do you do? What's special about your show and so forth?
Yeah, thank you. So I've had YouTube for 2.5 years, maybe a little bit more, and I started it just doing ride-alongs. I've done a lot of rideshare like you, and I got so many stories. And I would come home and tell my girlfriend or my family, "Oh my God, I picked up this couple, and these guys were fighting, and these people were great, and all these stories that you get with rideshare, right?" And I said, you know what? Maybe I see other people had channels. I said, I could kind of share my experience. It could be entertaining or whatever, and maybe I can teach some people some things because I learned from others on YouTube, which I think YouTube is a great way to learn anything for free.
Yep.
Not just gig economy, but actually more than that. And I said, let me just turn the camera on and see what we can do. And I kind of told myself, what up, Gary? I kind of told myself, let's do this for a year. And I committed. It was a really bold thing. I don't recommend it for anybody. I said, I'm going to try it for a year. And I'm going to do something every single day on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
And I did that. And the channel kind of started growing. And I was helping some people. And it became very, I was having fun doing it. Even before I was making money doing it, it was just fun. The community, the comments, and just collaborating with other people. And right now I do a live show every Sunday. That's been pretty strong for almost 2 years now. Every Sunday, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. And we open up the StreamYard. In the beginning, I was taking phone calls like the old AM shows. I give out my personal number like an idiot. And I'd be like, hey, just text me. And people would call in. And it's just, the energy I get from the fellow drivers.
Yep.
It was just great. So it just kept me engaged doing it every week. And basically on my channel, you could find, it's kind of a mix. So I give a realistic interpretation of my day every day, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, whether I make $200, $300, or I make $20. I tell you, I do rants. I'm very opinionated. I don't hold back. I am myself. I give a little bit of entertainment. I talk about topics, the things that are affecting drivers, mostly DoorDash, but I still talk about other things. And we have a good time doing it. So that's kind of what the channel's about. So
when you're, so it's two questions. When you are doing gig work, are you having to multi-app in your area? Is that something that you do, or are you able to do DoorDash? You said you do mostly DoorDash, so I mean, then I have to ask the question: are you a top dasher or those kind of things?
So I'll get into that. So when I first started, it was obviously just a lot of Uber and then DoorDash, and then mostly just DoorDash for a while. Back before the programs and things like that, and I was able to just do DoorDash, and it was really easy to make a decent living most weeks. Right now, there are weeks that I'll just do all DoorDash and do okay. Right now, not last week, but the week before and this week, I've been doing pretty much equal parts Instacart and DoorDash, and it's been really good. I'm making a little more money by having that second app on.
Yeah.
I highly recommend drivers, when you feel comfortable in your market, to multi-app, having all the apps on, taking the best offer. There are times you'll get lucky and, you're dropping off a DoorDash and you got Instacart on and you can grab one and have it waiting in the queue, as I call it, so that you have no downtime. So I think limiting the downtime is what is a major thing about multi-apping if you do it the right way. Don't recommend it for new drivers. But for somebody that's, even if you're just a month or two in, you can figure it out. I am a top dasher. I used to not be ever, and I would adamantly call top dashers like, you guys are crazy about, back in 2021, 2022. I was like, this is ridiculous. But the game has changed. DoorDash has changed. If you don't think they've changed, you're probably not working the apps, right? So I reset my acceptance rate back in November of 2022 and chronicalized that on YouTube, and the good and the bad and the positive with it. Right now I am one, but I'll either get it with the acceptance rate, or I can get if you do enough shopping pays in St. Louis.
Yeah, same here.
You can kind of be gifted the Dash Now functionality every week. So I basically get it just from that, but I also get it with a higher AR. So DoorDash has changed. I don't think Top Dasher has the negative connotation as it did a year or two ago. But like I told you, you got to do what works for you. Every market's kind of different, right? So,
well, I think the problem with not a problem with Top Dasher, the way they've changed, it's someone like me, I can't ever get on now because I don't do it enough to do 100 deliveries and stuff like that. Like, I try to get on when I can, but then, I have a couple other W-2 jobs that are like part-time and stuff. So it really screws the guy that just wants to throw on the app and go work 5 hours and then be done with it. So, I mean, I think once you get that Top Dasher, if you dedicate like 2 or 3 nights a week, I think you can keep it. But like for me, it's just, I've probably done, in the month of July, I probably did 12 deliveries, and it's a kind of bummer because I actually like food delivery, and Uber Eats is just kind of trash here, and Grubhub, of course, and so it's kind of frustrating. But the second question I had, you do a live on Sunday, and then how many times do you edit and post stuff? And does that interfere sometimes with you wanting just to go out and do, and now don't be offended, everybody, because I'm a gig worker too, but brainless delivery or stuff where it's just, it's kind of like, I know this, I don't have to think super hard, you know what I mean? I'm just curious how many videos you post, and because I know we don't do any video editing. I do audio editing, but like video editing just seems so hard.
So that's a great, I get that question a lot, and this is why I have made since I started the channel, I do daily uploads. So my editing is very, very minimal. I use iMovie to edit. I record everything with my iPhone 13. When I started the channel, it was the iPhone 10. At this point, I can get my editing done really easily. It doesn't take me long. And I do the Sunday lives, and those just kind of sit there. And sometimes I'll take segments from the live and re-upload smaller segments. I've only done that maybe a half dozen times, but I do daily content, and I've missed a few days, maybe a half dozen days in the last 2+ years, to where it was either a holiday or I didn't feel like doing it or whatever. But I do daily stuff, and I do it on my phone. And
you still do daily stuff? Like
still, man.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I do.
I'm so jealous of your.
It's a lot of video. Listen, I don't recommend. I've tried to help, and I talk to a lot of people like up and coming content creators, or I think about having a channel. I do not, and I'll repeat it for everybody on your show, recommend doing daily content. It can burn you out. It will burn you out. It's a lot. It becomes a job.
Oh yeah.
But because I'm monetized, and like, you start seeing the fruits of the labor, and you start growing something, and you feel good about it. So I feel really lucky. But I do daily. I mean, I've got a lot of content.
But a lot of it you record in the car, right? Most of it you record in the car.
Yes, absolutely. I would say 95% of my uploads are in the car.
So you have the routine down. You know when you're going to, because I saw a couple of them today. I like to do my a little bit of research, but I mean they were just and they were great videos. That's the thing, and you can see that you have it down. You know where the phone is. You've obviously done this a lot, and you edited it smooth. I mean, and so I think it looks really, really good, knowing what you have to work with.
No, thank you for saying that, because I've made a lot of really crappy videos in the beginning. So I always say, like, you have to do the quantity to know
Yep.
what quality looks like. Right. So,
Mhm.
and even now I'll make a video. I'm like, I'm not proud of it, but my audience knows that to expect a video every day at 9:30 Eastern. That's just
Right.
what it is. So they know
Yep.
that they're going to get something, and it could be good. It could be bad day. It could be a topic. It could be a ride along. It could be a response or reaction. And it's something for them to look forward to. And mine's very
Right.
raw. The editing it's just, it's just me in my car most of the time. So,
And that's the style they're looking for, right? And if it starts becoming something else, now it's no longer your audience.
exactly.
And so you got to be careful about that too.
Yeah, exactly. And I've tried some things here and there, and sometimes people like them and they don't. But that's YouTube. It's you're not going to be able to please everybody. But as long as you can just kind of be yourself, I think overall, if you go with that, you'll be fine.
So you brought it up yourself that the editing you do and how long it takes you and stuff. So, but in an average week for you, Pedro, Pedro, would you say how many hours would you say that you work both on Gig and on the channel? I mean,
great question. So I've been trying to transition over the last year to do less gig work and make money doing a few things.
Sure.
Probably like you guys, right? I don't have a W-2, but I do a few things on the side, right? So I for a while I was in the beginning, I was like 50 to 60 hours a week. It's 5 to 7 days a week, right? And then about a year ago, I started getting it down to 30. 6 months ago, 25. I like to be at about 20 hours a week, but I'm just not there yet for other reasons.
Yeah.
But as far as YouTube, because I'm doing it every day. There are days where I'll spend 2 to 4 hours doing things on YouTube. And then there are other days it might only be an hour. So not a lot because I keep my editing very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But there are days I'm very invested in the YouTube, in the comment section and looking at things and researching and stuff like that. So I'm working less now by doing 4 different things that I do than I did when I worked as a food and beverage director at the casino. So I'm very happy to say I work less and make a little more. So it took a while to figure that out. But right now, I mean, this week, I'll probably work about 40 hours doing DoorDash and Instacart for this week. So not too bad. But
so I have a question. You're obviously monetized and probably have a steady stream of revenue. Does your family, maybe not your immediate family, but other people are like, you make money on YouTube? Like, do they like go like just doing your silly videos or something like that? Do you get that a lot? And you're like, hey, you want to see my check? I mean, it's decent.
Yeah. So I used to get that in the beginning, but now the people that are close to me, a few people, 4 or 5, I might have shared, hey, this is what I make per month, just because I feel comfortable telling them that. Most people don't know. But you could do good. But I always thought you had to have like 1 million subscribers to make good money. And that is just not the case, right? You have to be consistent. You got to have a little bit of luck and you got to know when to adapt and like how to read your analytics, and you can do okay. So, but I've showed one person once like what I made and they're like, no, you don't make that. I showed them, I pulled up my YouTube studio and they went, holy, like, they're like, I was like, yeah, this is a real thing. And they're like, I don't make that at my W-2. I was like, I know. And I still make more money doing the gig. I still work the gig economy. So really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. How do you balance the time while you're working on editing and stuff with your family? I mean, I don't know if you have a family at home.
I do.
I hear some kids, so I assume that you do. But like, I feel like with my podcast and stuff, and I've kind of downsized a little bit to one podcast currently. I struggled with my wife, like trying to balance trying to create a brand and stuff like that. Your family's probably like, well, this is his job now, so that's probably a little bit easier. But did you find in the beginning it was hard to balance that?
The balance is something I kind of work. I look at every month or two just to see how I'm doing, and I have an amazing. So me and my girlfriend have a 2-year-old. Okay. She's a stay-at-home mom, so everything is on me as far as financial, but everything's on her as far as like the house. Right. Mm-hmm. So for me, we kind of have a really good setup. I'm very lucky to have her because she allows me the time to do things because she's holding all the other things down. Yeah. But also I don't work Saturday and Sundays. Okay. So I haven't worked the Saturday and Sunday. I think I've worked 1, maybe 2 Saturdays in the last 2 years. And I haven't worked a Sunday in almost 3. So I give the weekends to my family and my friends. And then I do YouTube and everything else and the content from Monday through Friday. While I might upload a video Saturday and go live on Sunday, that's like really easy for me to do. So my balance is pretty good right now. but I think it could be a little bit better. But really, Madison, that's my girlfriend's name. She does a lot to allow us to do what we do. We're kind of like a team.
Oh yeah.
So I'm very lucky in that regard. So
we all know who does all the work, right?
Oh yeah, man.
It's not us.
What I do is actually really easy.
I know.
It is because my daughter is wild, right? So like, the times that we spend time together, we have things on Monday night and Saturday mornings, we do things and but she's wild. So like she's actually working a lot harder than me. I'm delivering McDonald's. I'm delivering McDonald's for a living. So that's super easy. She's raising a child. So like it's
Yeah. Once they get older, it does get easier. You have different problems, but it's like you can go to the store, not worry about the house burning down to the ground. So I want to comment on this guy. He says, eventually content sucks because tips and tricks get boring. I find that the tips and tricks are good for a while, but like, again, we call ourselves the infotainment podcast where we kind of have fun. And I think you're the same way, but you also provide some tips and tricks, but it's like,
I do.
It kind of gets old.
I don't provide them as much as I did in the beginning, but it's a good point because I get bored talking about it. You can only talk about the same thing too many times. But that's why sometimes mine's more life vlog and DoorDash is the backdrop. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about other things. But with these apps, you could talk about any app. Every couple of months, things are changing.
Yeah.
They'll add a program, they'll do this. Yeah, so you always have topics. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing with my channel, I've been really lucky. I get subscribers every day, new ones. So I have to put in some tips and tricks every once in a while within a ride along because new people are coming and they might not have seen the video I made 2 years ago. Yeah. Right. So I not every video am I giving advice or tips or tricks because like it can be boring and you can learn these apps pretty quickly by watching 1 or 2 videos on YouTube. So I don't do a whole lot of the tips and tricks anymore unless something brand new is happening. And then I'll talk about it and give a perspective on how it was for me in St. Louis. But once again, that's just in St. Louis. Somebody else in Atlanta, Florida, Cali can have a very completely different experience. So my tips and tricks in St. Louis is not relevant to somebody in Cali because they got Prop 22, right? Yeah. So I kind of learned that, but I still think there's value in them as long as the information is good. Yeah.
Oh, there's always value in knowledge. There's always valuable. So, hey, talk a little bit about how your content. We briefly talked about that, but how does your content set itself apart from other creators out there? Apart from the fact that you create daily, of course, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We talked about how you were kind of doing some tips and tricks and stuff. But what do you do different from other creators?
Good question. I think I'm very opinionated. I'm not very politically correct. I give my opinion on whether DoorDash is trash or whether DoorDash does something good. And when I talk about that they're trash, people are like, "Oh, okay, you're being negative." And when I say they're good, people call me a shill.
Of course,
I'm being paid by DoorDash, and I'm not being paid by it. I never have, right? And probably never will, right? So for me, I'm just very I just give my perspective. In a very raw way. I don't edit. I literally turn the camera on. I've never wrote a script for any of my videos. I just say what's on my mind. Sometimes it gets me in trouble. Sometimes people like it. Sometimes they hate it. But I think that's why I've done okay because as for your audience, like you don't want people to be indifferent, right? So I got a lot of people that disagree with me, but a lot of people agree with me. And that's okay. Yeah. That's what's great about the gig economy. We're independent in that way. We can work them how we want, have different opinions. And I just that's what my channel is kind of about. But I'm also big into betting on yourself. That's kind of my tagline on the channel. So I talk about motivation, next steps. I think the gig economy is great to work in if you have either an exit strategy or you're doing it with some kind of way of and most people do this part-time, right? The numbers tell us that. So I've never been somebody that's like, hey, you should just come into the gig economy. It's great. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to make $500 a day forever. I don't believe that, right?
No.
So I tell people hey, what are we working on next? And I'll challenge the community. How are you doing? How long are you working on this? Are you putting money to the side? What are you doing to bet on yourself? So my channel's always been DoorDash is there, but I'll give a quick analogy. So me, I feel like I'm my content's not the best, right? But it's like Rocky, the Rocky movies, right? Rocky is a boxing movie. He's boxing. but it's actually more about life, and it's about his struggle, right? And how he gets to the ring. So DoorDash is the boxing part, but like Rocky's more than just boxing, if that makes sense, right? So my channel is more than just the DoorDash stuff. I think that's what brings people there. But initially, I think they stay because they like the unapologetic Pedro, as some might call it. So
I think
that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, I think nowadays, I've been to a few podcast conferences, and they're talking about like the raw is the better. People are getting tired of the curated video or picture or the filters and stuff like that. They just want raw. I mean, within reason. You can't just go like a crazy person, but you got to have a little balance there. But yeah, I think that's such a good idea as a creator now, is just kind of be yourself and kind of just tell your story through the things that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm not somebody I don't have the crazy editing and all the crazy equipment. Like, that's great. I see a lot of other videos. I'm like, man, that looks amazing. I can tell they spent
it looks good.
week. Yeah, they spent a week doing that. Like, I love it. But like, I'm simple. I'm going to turn the camera on. It's vlog style. Like, it is what it is. Let's let it rip. Like, and that's how I've always been. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And
but don't you also think sometimes that it feels scripted? It feels not real if it's made too well.
I think sometimes, and especially when what we do, right?
Absolutely,
because I think with us, I think if it's too scripted, it comes across that way. And I think a lot we're drivers. We're just out here driving. Correct. Whatever apps you do, whether it's rideshare, food delivery, I think a lot of people tune in to a podcast or a video and they're listening as they're doing work, and they're in their car, and if it's too fancy and stuff, like, I always thought I want my people to be able to just listen and not have to look at it. Right. And I think they can do that on a lot of my videos, and they feel like they're getting some value from it. So
that's actually a really good point, because like if someone's like really breaking down like Walmart Spark, I can't do gig work and listen to that because I'm popping in and out of the car. You know what I mean? Like I got to really focus, but no, I got to look at the road. Like, that's a really good point. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people will listen to me as they're working, and they've told me that, and then they might comment later, or they might, but I want to be able to just talk and give them a visual representation of my day, and they don't have to really even look at it. And I think they'll get, I'm pretty decent now after doing it so long, kind of telling a story and talking about an offer or an order or this or that, or a difficult one or a good one, and people can visualize it themselves. And I think that's why I don't need all the editing either. So
yeah, that's true. So let's talk about the Gigcon. I saw that you guys just had that in Denver, and it's really cool. As someone that has been to podcast conferences, like, they are super fun. I'm actually not going this year. Steve's mad. He's low level mad at me because
Steve.
Yeah, I don't think he really is, but it's in Denver this year, the podcast movement, and I just couldn't. I drive bus now, school bus, and it's just like it's right during the start of the season or the school year, so I just can't do it this year. But I really like that you have started doing this, and of course it's small, it's grassroots, it takes time and organization, but
absolutely,
I think this is so important for gig workers to have a little, like, because we all work alone, right? There's no water cooler. We try to use the apps. We use Telegram with a lot of people so that they can like feel like they can just complain in there. And because Facebook, and even on YouTube right here, all these comments, are you really getting interaction? No, you're just saying something and you're not hearing someone's voice and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about Gigcon, how it started, and what your plans are for the future for that.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it, because we're really proud of the 3 events we've put on. This is an idea I had a while back. I remember I was filming a video, and I remember just mentioning it as I'm filming my content. Like, hey, it would be awesome if we got together. We could call it Gigcon, and that video is still there somewhere. And like, people are like, yeah, that would be cool. And I had never seen it done, at least in our community. But obviously, there's podcast conferences and W2 conferences. Like, it's a thing, right? Virtual or in person. And I thought, man, could I put something like what's the interest? And people were talking about it. And I was like, let's just do it. Let's do it in St. Louis. So we did the first one last year in person in St. Louis. About 100 people showed up. I mean, I hired some people. So I hired gig workers. I got from like Craigslist and Facebook. Like it was an amazing inaugural event last year. Great companies were involved, great people. And then we did a virtual one. That was great. Me, Hannibal is Hungry, Steve Rideshare Rodeo, and Sam from Jaywalk kind of put that virtual together. And then this year, the same 4 people brought it to Denver. And it's a way, like you just said, we're in our car by ourselves. There's no water cooler.
Yep.
I want people to be able to get together for connection, to network, to meet each other. I think a lot of times when you meet somebody and you break bread, as I call it, and you have a meal or a cocktail or a beer, and you're talking, you cannot emulate that on YouTube. You just can't.
No.
You can't, because it's very unique and very different, and it's great. And we connect drivers with other drivers, other content creators, with companies that might have an app that could help them. So these events are it's a gig economy event. We call it Gigcon, but it's also about it's more about connection, and relating personally with each other, and putting people together, content creators and drivers that would never have met before. Like we put DoorDash Diaries, Zach Drives Fast, Steve, Hannibal, Kim's Side Money Plans, Louis Bertie from Delivery TV, Dashing Trader, like Van from Side Hustle Addict, all in the same room. And we feel really proud that we could do that, because it breaks down those walls, and the community gets to see other people, other content creators, other drivers from all over the country together.
Yep.
And I think it's a positive thing. And we're going to do it every year, different city. It'll continue to grow. And my hope, my dream, my aspiration is 10 years from now, this thing is huge. And we are really helping people, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And this past weekend in Denver was amazing. So
how many people did you guys have compared to the inaugural one?
I think we had
about the same.
About the same, maybe a little bit less in Denver, because it's not my hometown, right?
Right.
But we had drivers from New York, Florida, Hawaii, LA, Indiana, Michigan, St. Louis. We had a couple drivers that are what they call them nomad drivers. They just travel the country, and they made their way to Denver for this event. So really awesome. And then we did the Saturday event. Steve hosted the town hall. I had a senator there from Colorado and a U.S. House representative. So the Gigcon and the Saturday event were kind of together and merged. Nice. So we had a lot of the people from Friday were at the Saturday event. So we're really trying to just be an impact for drivers, for their voices can be heard, but then it can also connect with each other. So
what I think is really cool is, we're all in competition with each other, but not in the same market. Like, obviously, if everyone had a little conference just in Grand Rapids, let's say, and we're all there swapping tips, it's like, well, I'm competing against you. But everyone coming throughout the United States to one area, it's like, hey, our markets are different. Tell me what you're doing.
Exactly.
Like, because
exactly,
there are stuff out there, like even you, and you're a creator, you've been in the biz. There's probably things out there that you don't know and that we don't know that you could find out at a conference like that.
Absolutely. We did a Q&A towards the end, and like asking drivers, hey, what questions do you have? We were able to give perspective, right? Because we have to understand, like, you and I, the three of us, we know a lot, but there's also things we don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And when you team up some veteran drivers with new drivers, there's going to be some learning there. But there's also learning from the new driver can teach a veteran driver something too, based on their market alone, because markets can be very different. So, and I think we all just like to share stories. That's why we have channels and podcasts. We like to share stories. It's relatable. We like to talk about the good stuff, the bad stuff, and it's a way we can kind of get it out of our brain. You talked about water cooler, like when you go to the water cooler at W2, you're kind of probably complaining about your boss, or you're doing this. It's no different what we do. But we do it virtually. So these conferences, we're like, well, let's do it in person. Let's give the community something to look forward to, right? So if you have a W2 and you know that every year there's a Christmas party, you know what? Hey, that Christmas party is always kind of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. It makes the W2 a little more easy to swallow when times are tough, right? So in the gig economy, as you're out here struggling, and a lot of us are, let's give the drivers something to look forward to every year, right? Where they can come together, learn, grow, share perspectives, just have a good time if that's what you're into. So this thing's going to continue, and it's going to be it'll be bigger and better every year. So
I'm excited. I definitely need to go to it. One question I had: you did the Q&A. Did it turn into like somehow the comments where everyone just bitches the whole time, or was it constructive? Did you have to nip some of it and say, hey, let's try to, this is a good question, but let's take it offline per se, you know what I mean? Did you have to do that?
Yeah, no, me and Bentley, we talked about some things and we opened it up at the end of our conversation, and we didn't have any negative stuff. We had drivers asking questions about, hey, what about this? Or are you seeing this? It was more like our perspective.
Okay.
So it didn't turn into like a complaint fest or anything like that. That's good. If it did, that's all right. But yeah, we didn't have to. It was very organically just good. And most of the negative stuff I see is in the comment section, but it's easy to be a keyword warrior and say negative things, and it's harder to do it in person, right? Oh, yeah. So we didn't have any of that. No.
I think it's fine, like after the conference when you guys are having a beer and a pizza, like just to bitch about it, like F this company. I'm just so tired of it and those kind of things. Well, I'm excited for it. I think you've made it with that. If one of the big companies reaches out to you and says, "Hey, I want to have a booth there," and then you're like, okay, I think. Yeah,
we had, we shout out to Solo, Moves, Stuvo.
Oh, yeah. Well, they don't count. I'm talking like.
You're talking about like DoorDash?
Well, they count, but I mean, I'm talking, those are pro driver companies.
Yeah. You're talking about like DoorDash,
Instacart, Uber, Lyft, where they're like, hey, we see you're doing this. Can we have a conversation? Then you're like, probably not. I don't want you there.
My goal is to have at least one company there next year, because we haven't done that yet. Okay. That's like that. Where they could come and like drivers can ask them questions, or they could talk about new things that are coming. Because I think that so if that will happen, but I got a lot of work to do to get there. But
they end up helping you pay for all that stuff. So you invite them there, and then they're like, we pay for all this. So,
Jason, if Tony and his minions, they want to write me a check for 20 G's, I'll put DoorDash. I'll wear a DoorDash shirt, and they can sponsor the entire next conference, and I would happily do that.
That's amazing.
Or Dara from Uber. Hey, just $20,000. Hey, have a little booth. I'll give you 2 booths.
Hey,
and they could
$20,000. You're setting your bar way too low. They can afford a lot more. They were profitable this quarter, so
we could put on a really good conference for $20,000.
That's true.
Even better than we just had. So I'm just throwing it out there. If you guys are listening, email me.
That's great. Well, email me, Pedro. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing the stream with your fans. That's been amazing. If you, obviously the people that we have on, I looked, we had about 12. So just those 12 people that don't know Pedro, you go to his page and subscribe.
Absolutely.
And like it.
And hey guys, you listen, go check out the Gig Economy podcast. You guys do weekly, right? This is number 157. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do a live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then on Monday the audio portion comes out.
Yep.
So,
hey, I gotta show something real quick, Jason. I saw Steve with he's asked about a basketball. So this is something that was gifted to me by Steve Friday night after Gigcon, and he had some people sign it. So thank you, Steve.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm a big basketball fan, so that's why he did that. So.
Where did you get that on air sign?
Steve as
well. Hold on.
You have one?
That's from Steve too.
See, I have mine up, so Jason should have his up.
Yeah, that's true. Well, when we do this one, we're doing Jesper's remote. When we do our regular show, that's not the interview portion where he's in studio, so it's a different view. So we definitely have it on that one.
Yeah, you can. You could have it on like a desk too.
Yeah, that's how we have it. So we have a camera that faces over there and shoots this way, and then we have our individuals too. So for sure. Nice. Well, thank you so much, Pedro. Stay on the line after we disconnect, but appreciate everyone coming on and checking our show out too. It really means a lot. And we'll catch you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you so much, guys.
This podcast is produced and edited by Hey Guys Media Group. Want to start a podcast? Check out heyguysmediagroup.com.